Welcome back to Training Well Done, your podcast on the what, the why, and the how of quality training. I'm your co-host, Coach Donald.
Coach Tim.
And we're here to talk about motivation and mindset. We're finishing up our sports psychology series. But you know what this made me think of was we finished our sports science camp last week. And that was quite an experience.
Yeah, I was privy to some parts, but not others. I tried to get a lot of feedback from the kids that were like in class and also doing sports science camp. Like when you all went upstairs and came down, I was like, what did you guys do? Like, I'm really curious. How did it go?
I think it went pretty good. From like an execution standpoint, it went smooth. Like my goal the first week was I just need this to go smoothly. So that all went like without a hitch, really. I think I shouldn't do it in July because July, our enrollment wasn't as high as I was planning for because some of the people who would have done it, they were out of town.
Okay.
And there was just too much going on in July. So I think it should be June. And I might consider like a full day through. But the workshop for people and what like the kids that were there learned was awesome. So for those of you listening, we did a 2-week sports science camp that was from like 10 to 12. So kids came. We had one of our coaches, well, not coaches, but like one of our partners. She's a performance therapist, so she does like massage therapy, recovery therapy. She does some strength conditioning, massage. I think from a technical level, she's a massage therapist with a lot of other skills. She went to like athletic training school for undergrad, but you have to be a master's degree to be an athletic trainer, full-fledged. It's like a whole thing. But she came and taught them a lot of stuff with that. We had our dietitian come from Case Pacific, so he came and helped them with meal planning and like setting up how to eat.
They were really into that too.
Yeah. They did. What else? We had a physical therapist come, so Jen came. Talked to them about injuries, returning to running from injuries. The workshop was actually the worksheet was actually pretty good about understanding different types of injuries. We had. I did a couple workshops. That's what it was. So I did a couple pieces on speed and strength adaptations, and so helping them understand like how does your body respond to training and change. And then we did a different one on energy systems. So kind of like that whole podcast series we did a few months ago, we did a whole thing on energy system development. So I talked to them about their explosive energy system, their glycolytic system, their aerobic system. And then we went to visit 2 labs. So we went up to Precision Metrics Lab, where at Precision Metrics Lab, we got to check out the VO2 max test. No one did it, unfortunately, but did a 3 movement screening, and so got some insight on like movement ability. I actually did a DEXA for the first time. That was cool. And then we went up to see Charlie, so we went up to his lab upstairs where they got to play with some force plates and some gait analysis. So it was really fun. Like I really liked being able to bring all these people into it and kind of the engagement from that end, and then being able to like really teach these kids stuff. But because we brought all these people in to help, it was like a much lower lift than last year. And I think they got more out of it this time around, just because they had subject matter experts from different parts who this was the one time they had to do a presentation in a workshop with them, versus me and a couple interns last year trying to build 100%. Workshops up. And some of them were better than others, but trying to make 20 different workshops was a lot.
That's a great call out, because that was my big takeaway. Was that I just felt like the buy-in from the kids, or they were just so much more interested in the subject material because of the subject material, but also just because it was being presented by somebody different, Yeah. Because I remember when I would do mine, it's just like, I don't know, at a certain point, you see them get a little glassy-eyed, and you're just like, well, they've been listening to me drone on for 60 minutes like 3 times already this week. But seeing a new fresh face was cool.
Yeah. So that was really fun. I'm excited to do this next year, and I think from the last couple of summers, I think I have it to put together in a way that I think will be useful. I'm debating if I want to do like a mini series for the adults. I remember Joe mentioned before he left that he would be interested in something like that, and I think there'll be other people that will be interested in like something that's catered towards the adult athletes. That would be like maybe at night or something.
Yeah. How many years have you been doing this now?
It's only been 2 summers.
2 summers. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've found, and I know I've shared this with you before. I don't know if you remember, but I found that it takes, about 2 iterations for things to get to the point where it's like, aha, right? And then another few years for it to hit peak, right? Like in that 4 to 5 year range. Like I can see us having a gym packed with, 20 kids listening to a presentation by, or, somebody from case specific nutrition. But I think the format that you utilize this year is really good and definitely scalable because like you said, it's not so much bandwidth for you.
Yeah, I think that there's some thoughts on how to bundle that better with summer trackside.
Timing,
some
like
thoughts
you said.
On, also the other person, Reese, she did mental skills training. So all the stuff that we've been talking about, she actually came and did a workshop with that. That was actually
that was the week I was gone, which I was bummed that I
think
missed
that was the first week or the first day or the second day.
Yeah.
She did that. I think it was the first. She actually opened it on the first day. And then, so those are some things that I think that I'll, look at changing some of the timing for that. And the other big thing, I think I'm going to call this sports medicine camp or something along the lines because there's a lot more stuff that really involves sports medicine than there was about like sports science technology. It was mostly medical providers, and even, the sports tech stuff largely went around like injury mitigation. So it really wasn't about sports science. It was originally called that because like I wanted to teach them all this stuff about sports science. But when I kept looking at what we were presenting and what I wanted them to get out of the material, it was sports medicine, but it was too late to change the name. Yeah.
All right. I'll try and help brainstorm this because that could, I mean, you're definitely right. It does lean more towards that. But no, I think it's a good framework. It's a good place to build from. What did Reese talk about when she did the mental skills training?
Visualization, goal setting, self-talk.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So those were, if you listen to the mental skills training episode, those were 3 of the big things that we talked about there.
And also like about sports psychology because I asked them all to talk about their careers.
Okay. Were the kids into it?
Mostly, yeah.
That's cool. Teaching them that athletic maturity at a young age.
Yeah, the one kid had a lot of questions, which I really appreciated.
Yeah. The caliber of the kids that participate in that is
very serious.
Yeah. They are laser focused, man. But all right, well, today we are, like Coach said, we are on our last of 4 episodes that focus on sports psychology. So this is something that's really fascinated me for years, and Coach Donald was kind and willing enough to let me pull together a mini series here. But we are going to wrap up today by talking about motivation and mindset. So we've already discussed mental skills training. We've talked about emotional regulation, and then discussed an acceptance-based approach. And now we're on to the last little component of motivation and mindset. When I was organizing these notes, I was very concerned about the order that we, approached it, right? Because like you want to build that broad base first, and I was thinking, well, like, doesn't motivation and mindset, like, shouldn't that come first, right? Isn't that what we want to talk about first? But then I'm building out the episode notes, and I'm realizing I think saving it for last was the right call because it really helps tie together some of the other things that we've already talked about. So if you haven't listened to the past 3 episodes, I definitely encourage you to go back and listen to them. If you're only listening to this one, you'll still get a lot out of it because it, like I said, it pulls on a lot of threads that we've already discussed in a little bit more detail.
Let's dive in.
So motivation and mindset, they're two of the most talked about topics in sports psychology, obviously, but they're also two of the most misunderstood. The way that I conceptualize this is a lot of times when we talk about an athlete's motivation or an athlete's mindset, people can get really hung up on that, like, let's call it the old school approach.
Ooh, what's
right?
that?
So when I think about an old school approach, I think about things like, just push through it, no pain, no gain, right? Run suicides until you collapse. If you got beat at the finish line and somebody out kicked you, it's just because they wanted it more and you need to want it more, right?
Oh yeah.
So sort of that, like, I say old school, but like that's some of the coaching I got.
I had a kid tell me that their coach, and this is somebody who still coaches, is like they don't believe in injuries.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if the coach feels that way. So I can't confirm that. This is what I've had multiple kids tell me.
You got a broken leg? Go walk it off.
I hope there's more nuance, and the kids have just lost the nuance.
I would hope so. But yeah, so that's why these concepts of motivation and mindset can often be misunderstood and then misrepresented, because that can often, those old school approaches or old school thought processes can sometimes be like default mode network, right? If not so much with coaches nowadays, but with parents too. And we know that so much of an athlete's growth is affected by the reinforcement that they're getting at home, whether positively or negatively. So that's why I thought that this was really an important area for us to focus on. So as always, we're going to start off just by addressing some of these common myths that are associated with these two topics. The first being that motivation is something that an athlete or person, I guess, just either has or they don't have, right? Like you see people that are highly motivated. You see people that are highly unmotivated. And we have a tendency to think that it's just like a character trait, right? That's just like how someone is wired, right? So then it must mean that your high-performing athletes are really like the most motivated people. And the ones that underperform just aren't really as motivated. And that's just never going to change. But the reality is that it can change. Throughout this series, everything we've been talking about is a trainable quality. And you can train motivation, right? If you are a successful athlete, you rely less on actually being motivated and more about creating the systems and putting the structure in place to encourage you to be motivated even when you're not.
Yeah.
Right? So like habits, routines, disciplines, just committing to longer term training goals rather than saying just getting through the workout, right? Can all help an athlete develop higher levels of motivation. It's not just a characteristic or a personality trait.
Yeah. And I think it's important to like know what you care about and be able to train and set those goals based on what you care about versus trying to do things that you're not that interested in, because that allows you to stay that course. But sometimes we think like it's just like all this rambunctious energy, and it's like, no. I think about this quote, action begets action. And sometimes the process of doing the thing gives you the energy source to go and do the thing.
Absolutely.
But you have to get over that initial inertia.
Absolutely.
And I think motivation often makes the inertia less. I don't know. I'm going to think about that. But I want to say that a motivation can help with lowering inertia to get something going, right? I've been highly motivated to do this 5K training. So, like, I've actually found it easy. I've run 8 out of the last 9 days. That's not, I usually don't maintain that type of frequency. But, like, part of it is, like, I'm jazzed to go run. But then there's like these other structures that are in place that like I'll feel bad if I don't. Like not like, oh, my body won't feel as good. But like, oh, Leslie knows that I'm trying to do this. So like I have to be accountable to that. I was like numbering my runs at first. I also know that, well, if I want to get in shape, I should start with frequency. So I got to keep this frequency up if I'm going to actually get in shape. But then slowly, you're going to talk about this more. This turns into like the discipline approach of like, how do I just structure this so I can make this easy to keep up with?
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm not going to feel this bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Hopefully.
That's the goal.
I probably will. It's going to get tiring one day. I'm like, bro, I'm doing this run.
Yep. To go back to what we were saying, like, just not like, don't fool yourself into thinking like if you're highly motivated today, you're going to be highly motivated for the next 4 months while you're getting ready for a marathon. You know, that's like unrealistic.
Yeah.
To your point about action begets action. I have this silly little thing that I do in the gym on the days where I'm just like not feeling it. Mm-hmm. And it's like nothing, right? I take one of those broomsticks. I do a little rotation, little shoulder mobility. All right, couple squats, couple hinges, some hip openers, like really lazy stuff, like lazy stuff. But that's enough to get the ball rolling sometimes, you know? So, and these are some of the tools and tips that we're going to talk about here in this episode. The other, well, not the other, but another common myth associated with motivation and mindset is that, like we just mentioned, if you're a highly motivated athlete, you're always excited to train. And as highly motivated athletes, we know that that's definitely not always
dragging
the case,
sometimes.
right?
I'm going to bed.
Right.
I don't got time. I'm busy. Doing something else. I don't feel like doing. You show up to the track. You show up to the weight room, and you're like, you roll your eyes to the back of your head.
Yeah. People just people assume there's like, they like the athletes who are highly motivated are always highly motivated, and that's just a fallacy.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you find out, oh, I'm glad I did that because you feel better after you got done, but that is not always there. But it kind of goes into your next point, where like on the flip side, you can be tired and drained and bored, but you still are like ready to do the thing. Sometimes it's because you know there's a good outcome on the other side. If it's been a long day and you know that a good 3-mile run, 30-minute run is going to get you to feel better to go to bed, you might look forward to that specifically because you're like feeling down. Or if you're going to go to the weight room because you know like the feeling of like the pump or the swole, like that just gives you an endorphin boost from just going through there and pumping iron. Like you actually might feel very motivated to do that just because like it's going to alleviate that.
That's the difference between having like a strong work ethic and high motivation.
Okay.
A strong work ethic can get you through those periods where you're not highly motivated, right? And it also, you touched on this just a minute ago. That's why it's important to set those longer term goals, right? Or those like process goals over outcome goals, right? Because you can be focused on the bigger picture, which makes it easier to make good choices in the moment.
Yeah.
If you zoom out. Another myth is that more motivation will always lead to better performance. And the research is pretty clear on this. Being really amped up before events can actually have a negative physiological effect, right, on the body. So like, yes, we want to be excited to train, and yes, we want to be motivated to race, but like there is too much of a good thing in this regard. Like it can manifest in muscle tension, even make someone a little bit more anxious, which means that they might overthink things, rush through things, just make poor decisions just because they're so like ready to go.
This makes me think sometimes where, you mentioned on the other side of that, inverted U, where like you get so aroused that now you're not able to stay calm and process what's going on. So then you might not be present as much.
Right.
It's like now you're not like here. You're so ready
You're
to go,
everywhere.
and like your body's probably spending a lot of energy, and then you might overread something that could turn into overconfidence sometimes, and then now you're like making mental mistakes.
Yeah. Well, to use the example that we did last episode about like a player dropping the ball, right?
Yeah, especially like in a field sport.
Yeah, exactly. If you're like amped up and ready to go and you're already thinking about the next thing before you've completed the first thing,
You're not here.
you're not here and you're not going to be making that play.
Yeah.
Right. So a healthy dose of motivation is good. Not too much. And then lastly, in terms of mindset, obviously as coaches, we always coach for like a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. And it's important to note the fact that like when we're referring to developing a growth mindset, not just in this episode, but generally in life, we're not talking about like, hey, you can do anything, right? Like, be all you can be, kid. What we're really emphasizing or placing priority on is the process goals, right? The things like, hey, learning for the sake of learning, appreciating the adaptation that your body's making in response to the training, and not just like the objective numbers on the clock.
Yeah.
Right. Focus on that persistence, that grit, that work ethic, right? The fact that getting up and going through a session when you really were not highly motivated counts for a lot. Like, give yourself a pat on the back for that. And just generally overall improvement, right? So we're really focused on the long-term picture of an athlete's growth and development throughout their entire career. When we say growth mindset, we're not just, a rah-rah cheerleader, shoot for the stars without figuring out what are the steps you need to take to get there.
Yeah, and this kind of goes into that whole aspect of, you made me think about first the Wheaties quotes, but like the growth mindset being like system goals, right? Being focused on what are the things that you need to be regularly doing and being focused on doing that, because the outcome goals will come across, they'll happen, right? But if you're always focused just on winning, especially if you're, even if you are like a pro athlete and like, well, you get paid to win, but sometimes that winning comes with following through with the process. And so if you're able to, do the things that you mentioned in regards to what should you be executing on? Can you stay in the headspace to execute, and you're thinking about how you can grow over time because you have a longer term goal that you're shooting towards. And sure, you might have a longer term outcome goal, but there's a lifestyle and a way of being that's required to hit those goals. And I think the motivation needs to be aligned with doing those things every day, because that's what's going to get you there, versus if you're always just thinking about the thing but you don't have a lifestyle to do those steps, then you might lose that. And if you're so focused just on the end, I think that can drift closer to that fixed mindset of like, I need to hit this or I bust. If I don't hit that goal, I bust.
Right.
But it's really, did you become somebody in the process of getting there?
Yeah. I always enjoy when we get an athlete, whether a youth athlete or an adult athlete, that like right from the start, you can tell that they are very process oriented, right? And have that growth mindset. And like a lot of times they're not coming to you. They're not coming to you as a coach to say, hey, I'm here. I want to get there. Help me along the way. And some of these kids are coming, they're like, I want to get from here to here. I know what it's going to take to get there already. I understand all of these steps. I'm willing to go through the process.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for the support, right? And the higher level coaching along the way. And I'm not going to name names on the podcast, but like some of the youth athletes that we have are just incredibly mature for their age, and their understanding of the difference between a process and an outcome goal.
Totally.
All right, so let's dive into this motivation and mindset now that we've addressed some of those things that might be misleading. The first thing that we want to talk about is it goes back to that first myth that we discussed, that being motivated and having a growth-oriented mindset is not about your personality. It's just, it's not something that's hardwired into your system, or it's not. And I'm sure you had people in your life, as we all have, that like maybe do have a tendency towards one or the other.
Yeah.
And maybe they might be leaning towards having more of that fixed mindset, but like they're able to recognize that and pull a 180 and reverse course, which is like really cool to see. But the fact of the matter is, it's not something that you're either born with or you're not. Like, it is a skill that can be developed through intentional practice. And the research is showing us that the motivated and resilient athletes don't think that way because they're just gifted in that sense. They've learned the habits and created the systems that support the consistent performance. And because then they consistently perform, then it's a positive feedback loop. Then they're more highly motivated with a better mindset.
So there's a level of, as you make progress, you're inspired to keep seeing what you're capable of.
Yep. Stacking bricks, building momentum, right?
Like the grind, as you never really
yeah.
Everybody hates now saying the grind, but like that is literally part of a system. A goal focus is like showing up every day and doing the thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that, again, to that action begets action. Like, you kind of can mold your personality when you start doing something. I was at the bridal shower yesterday. Today was Tuesday. I guess that was 2 days ago.
I was gonna ask, because I was like, did they have it on a Monday? But
no, I think I just forgot what today was. And we were there, and I was catching with a friend of mine who, like, historically, this friend does not really exercise, not really into that. And she's like been working out the last like year or two, had another kid, and was just like, I don't know, she's gotten super motivated, started eating healthy food. And I was like, you should just do like a triathlon, or like, just train for like a half Ironman or something, or like go pick like a half marathon. Like, take it like 6 months out and just train for that. She's like, I was maybe thinking about 5K. Perfect. Because sometimes, like, when you put that thing out there, and sometimes you do need that outcome goal. But most of the time, we put the outcome goal out there because it's a tool to get us to have a system goal.
Right.
Because we know we need to, like, work out, or do the strength training, or do the running, or do the nutrition. But if there's not like I'm like this too sometimes. If there's not something to do it for, it's hard to build the system. It's hard to feel motivated to keep the system going. But when the system's in place and it's working, you almost don't need the outcome goal anymore, because now the system's working and the system provides its own gratitude for sticking with it. But you needed the thing to make the systems. At least sometimes I feel that way.
No, you're spot on.
But this is a person who wasn't into this type of thing. Disciplined in other areas of their life. Very disciplined about other parts. But when it came to fitness, health, and nutrition, like, not. And, seeing this big change in personality from like, I'm not doing that, to, I'm supposed to send her about 5Ks I'm going to do this fall. Like, you should come do it.
Yeah. And it's you're almost like, if you pick a race date and put it on the calendar, you're basically just reverse engineering the process, right? And like saying, okay, well, I know that's the outcome, but in order, like, now I need a system. And oftentimes you think, like, with some of these adult athletes too, they might spend months preparing for their goal race, and like something may happen. They get called away, something like, whatever the case might be, like they're not able to participate in their event. Like, it's often not the end of the world, because they can look back on those past few months and be like, oh, like, I thought that was more important than it actually was, because what was important was what I just went through. Yeah. Right.
Like, I'm in the fitness I wanted to be in. I did the things I wanted to do. I just didn't get to show up on that one stage.
Right. So now that we've sort of set this umbrella of understanding, what it is and what it isn't, in the sense that it's a trainable quality, like we talked about. Now we're going to go through some of the ways in which, like, you as an athlete can skew your motivation and mindset towards those positive outcomes. One thing that we mentioned is connecting your training to a meaningful purpose. So this is crucial, because meaningful will always outweigh enthusiasm. Say you are, let's just use a marathoner, for example, just because of the time frame. So you are a first-time marathoner, okay? Maybe you've run, some halves here and there, but you're making the jump up to the full marathon, and you're excited about it. This dog is cracking me up. How long does it take to properly prepare for a 26.2 mile event? Obviously, it depends what sort of shape you're in, what your pace is like, but it's going to be at least 12 weeks, and that's if you're coming right off a half.
I didn't expect that dog.
Yeah.
I didn't see the dog in the first place.
It's been like lying down, it's been eating, it's been back and forth. So let's just say anywhere between 12 and 20 weeks. Just call it that. And you are really excited to make the jump to the marathon. Okay. Do you think you're going to be excited every day of every week for 12 to 20 weeks? Absolutely not. Right?
Like 5 or 6 a.m. or something like
right?
that.
5, 6 a.m. in the morning. It's cold and dark outside, right? Like, you are not going to be excited about that training run. But if you connect that goal to a purpose, that purpose will get you through those 5 a.m. cold, soggy, damp, 20-mile training runs a lot more effectively than excitement would be.
That's a good point.
So you always want to encourage athletes to be like, okay, I understand what you're doing, but like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Right?
I think that, that's part of why people do like charities for like their races.
Exactly.
You sign up for a charity, you got to raise money. Those 4x4x48, like, I'm not just doing that to do that. Sure, maybe David Goggins could just do that just because, like, I need to, like, dip my toes in some difficulty. But, like, I want to do that and complete it, but, like, I need something. I need it tied to something. I think sometimes the meaningful purpose could be, it might be, maybe some people do a thing for remembrance of somebody. Maybe, some people, like, they had lost a loved one due to, like, heart disease or something, so they work on their health and kind of inspiration from that person. Or, for me, like, I want to be able to do hard things. I want the things that I do for my son to see, so that he can see, okay, you have to work hard for things, but doing some of these things does not require a Herculean effort. I want him to see, some of these activities that I do, to be like within reach, but require hard work, so that when he looks at the things that he wants to do, whether it's in sport or art or with school or just, himself, that, my parents do like stuff that's difficult a lot. I mean, it looks like it's challenging, but it also looks very doable. It looks like it's just challenging because you have to like do all this stuff leading up to that. But like, it's also just regular to him. And I want him to view it as like a regular thing to spend a few months or a few years working at something that you want to get, and see who you become in that process, and it not feel like he needs to just like, I got to be like, write myself as a new, different person. Sometimes people do the whole, I'm going to start off being a new me. And sometimes it's just, let me just start doing these activities. And as I start doing the thing, I become the person that does the thing. And like, let him see what that looks like year in and year out, so that he doesn't feel like it's just some massive undertaking. And like that, I don't know, to me, that's important, because it took me a while to realize like that, how that process works. And at least how that works for me. And in seeing like the friction that a lot of people have with becoming who they want to be, and sometimes we use like these training goals to become somebody, but there's people that you meet who, you mentioned that runner who went from being an elite runner to like a bodybuilder or something.
Yeah.
And like some people find the friction to change who they are to themselves or what they're into pretty easily, but other people, it takes them years to decide that they want to be healthy, because sometimes the purpose of like being healthy for their family might not be high enough, but eventually maybe something happens that pushes them further. And for lack of maybe to be crude, because I'm thinking about a couple of particular scenarios, like that can be, it's kind of stubborn in a way of like, you could look at it that way, that it's stubborn. Like, that if you do these things, your outcomes are better and your family needs you to have better outcomes. And for some people, it takes for them to like be hospitalized, have something bad happen to go and become a different person. And I want him to be able to see, hey, for some value that hopefully does not have the same stakes as like being there for your family, but I want to be able to have this as a part of my life, for maybe it's for his family, or maybe it's for some cause that he cares about, maybe it's just for his own development. I want the friction to be lower for him to decide to do that. And I want him to grow up seeing the bar be low for deciding to go after something hard.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for bearing with me trying to figure out how to word that. Like that's part of how my purpose has even evolved. And sure, I have my own very selfish desires for wanting to do certain things that have nothing to do with him. But there is this kind of zoomed out part of, I want him to see me be able to achieve those things and at least pursue them. And even if I don't achieve it, I achieve the process, so that he can just think that just going through the process is pretty normal.
It is, and can be very rewarding. You had asked me a question in the gym the other day about like what value, like have you thought about like the values that you're trying to like instill, right? And I think you just sort of unpacking that, it's like that's a really good value to teach your child, is that like hard work for the sake of hard work is excellent. Like,
yeah,
and I think it helps you maintain a good relationship too with what you're doing. And that's a big thing for me, is like, longevity in the sport is obviously really important. And that means being, not being in like a cycle of injuries, and having the strength and durability to keep doing the thing that you love to do. But like, you also need to have a healthy, positive relationship with it too.
Yeah.
And if you're tied up in a black and white outcome goal that guaranteed you're not going to hit 100 out of 100 times, then it's really easy to like not have a good relationship. And then when you don't have a good relationship with what you're doing, you're less likely to do the thing.
Yeah.
And that, and then the whole thing reverses course. So I don't know, we could probably stop right there. Just connect your training to a meaningful purpose, and everything else will fall into place.
I think we talked about 3. Number 4 is one of my favorite things. And if you don't mind, like,
no, go for it.
Building confidence through evidence. People talk about
here we go,
affirmations and all this, and I'm not gonna lie. At one point in my life, I had little affirmation cards.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Why not?
One of the best things I ever heard was, your affirmations are the proof of what you've already done. I at times battle with, do I have self-esteem, or have I just done things that gave me self-esteem? There's certain people you growing up,
yeah,
and like there's kids you meet, and they're just at least portray, they're so confident. Now I grew up and I realized sometimes you talk to these people and they're like, it's a show. But then there's other people you meet who maybe they're not the most flamboyant people or the most like bold people, but there's people that who can stand their ground as when they're 10, 15 years old, and they just have this internal like focus of self-esteem that is just so there, and I didn't have that. I mean, maybe I did, and I'm not giving myself credit for it, but like I didn't feel as, I can recall questioning when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, like, do I value myself because I am myself?
Okay.
Because by the time I got to college, I mean, this happened throughout high school, but I acknowledged it in college that what I was able to do and achieve gave me a lot of validation, and it gave me a lot of like almost purpose. But it built my confidence because I was able to do things. I was able to, I became the guy on campus that did all the clubs, and I was running track. I did well with track in high school, and I made it through like my childhood living situation. So there was like sense of confidence of because I'm able to achieve and do and move through. I built confidence through the evidence of what I've been able to do.
Mm-hmm.
I realize I'm actually introducing a different question of, are we getting our self-esteem because we have inherent esteem, or do we have a self-esteem because of what we can do, which is a different philosophical question to wrestle. But while I wrestle with that still, I do think that when it comes to being able to have confidence in your life and what you're aiming for, you have this process goal that you're trying to see through, or you have even an outcome goal that you want to see. There's nothing wrong with outcome goals. It's living your life on those. What did you do before? Because you can use that to fuel you. Mm-hmm. Now there becomes the question of, you graduated from college, you don't have any work experience, so how are you going to get an entry-level job that requires 7 years of work experience if you don't have work experience? How can you be confident if you haven't done anything to be confident about yourself about? And that goes into being able to set up smaller things that you can achieve and taking those things seriously. Maybe you want to run a marathon, but you've never run a 5K. Bro, just go run a mile and let yourself, we talked about that, one of the members, in the last episode, let yourself be happy with what you did.
Yeah.
And use that as fuel to say that you can do the next thing.
Yep.
I'm doing this training cycle and I want to get myself up to 40 to 50 miles a week to train for a 5K. I've never run that much to train for. That's how much I was running for my marathon last year. And I'm going to try to do this for this 5K. But I know I can run that because of what I did before. I know I can hit certain times because of what I've run before. When it came to even like this business, my audacity to even do GHP in the first place was because I had the audacity to like do these student clubs. And I ran so like my freshman year of college, I became a little arrogant prick to some extent. Because again, I got a lot of validation from doing things, and like, I noticed it. And I lived in that world where like, how cool were your programs that you were putting on, or like how many people could come out to your programs, or like what role did you have in these different organizations that had clout? Like, what did that matter? And I can recall my freshman year, I made like the executive board for like one of our clubs, and I decided to run against the senior for the role. I didn't get the role, president, but I ran against the person who was already there as a junior. She had to rerun. I was like, I'm going to run against her. And so I ran against her. I lost. But I ended up getting a different role a couple of years later. But like just the audacity of doing those things, like it made it so that the lift of starting the business, it wasn't astronomically high. Coaching abroad, I was like, well, I mean, I ran these clubs. Like, I had a guy tell me, oh, you could make a blog article about traveling and training, or you could just go ask. So I just went to ask, but I didn't have a problem asking because I asked about other things. I had to ask for money from student government to run these programs. I had to ask people to vote for me to go and be the president of this club for 2 years. I had to run again. So, I was used to asking people for things and getting a voucher of approval. And I also was the type of person that I would not brag about what I could do because I would always rely on other people doing it for me. So when I go and ask like, hey, I want to come and coach, here's my resume, and they're like, cool, and I show up and coach, then it's like, well, I did these things when I was an undergrad. Oh, I'm in grad school, I'm in another country coaching people. Well, all right, I'm just going to start coaching people here. Oh, I need to figure out how to, set the finances. I need to figure out a space. And not letting it be a big deal because, again, there's trailing evidence, right?
Right.
Some people, when they go to play professional sports, right, there's this trail of evidence of what they've done in college and in high school that gives them the confidence to be able to go and do that. And, I just love this whole aspect of like, let your history be your affirmations. Let your confidence build what you believe you can do for the future, and like take that stuff seriously enough in your life to let it fuel you.
And even if you haven't done the exact thing, if you've done all of the component pieces of the thing, then you know, oh, I just have to pull it together, right? Like starting the business, right? Like, oh, I've basically done this either on a smaller scale, or I've done this part of it, I've done this part of it, I've done this part of it. I just need to pull them all together. And when we think about this from the like sports psychology side of things, is when you have the evidence and you have that data set to work with, when you're going through your whole self-talk and doing your affirmations, it makes it a lot easier to say, oh, I was worried, but like I got this because I've already shown myself that I have this.
Yeah.
Right?
It makes me think about, we did that track recap and how like when Shakur won the 100 the second time, and it was like, you beat this kid before. You beat all these kids before. And, you know, sure, there's questions of, oh, is this personal best faster than yours? Doesn't matter because you beat him before. You have the emotional imprint of having won this title at this particular meet. And then you go and do it again. And this time in more dramatic fashion because you were losing at first and then you caught up to win. And we go back to that 4x4 thing, and it's like, you've already won multiple races there in higher stakes situations because you're not expected to win this 4x4. Right. You're actually, first of all, you weren't expected when you walked in, and you got the baton in second and with a sizable gap. But you have the past experience of you won these other races. You won these other races last year. So there's also a poise about, oh, I could do this. And again, back to the earlier part you mentioned about stimulation, like the whole like being overstimulated or understimulated. It helps you stay in like I think a
like regulated
status of like, I can do this and let me focus on how to do this, versus you get overconfident that, oh, I'm going to blow this out of the water, and you crap the bed because you didn't play the game right, or you didn't try hard enough because you didn't think you could.
Yeah, and that it provides like that concreteness to having a high level of confidence, because confidence isn't just like, I got this. Like, confidence is, I know I've got it because I've done it before, or I've like done the necessary steps, right? So it becomes a lot more concrete and less just like of an abstract, oh, I'm good. Like, you're not pumping yourself up, right?
Even like that learning process, like, you know, I've been mentioning I'm trying to like learn this piano, so it's been a month and a half, a little over a month and a half, and like it was intimidating because I remember I tried to learn a guitar in college. I didn't know how to learn the guitar. With the piano, I like had frameworks for learning how to do it.
Yes.
And like kind of back to the thinking, like I've been learning how to learn things. Like I learned how to swim, and I had to learn the process of that. You know, you learn about like business, or you learn about different aspects of all of that. You learn about how to run, or how to coach better, or how to even frame getting better at something that you think you're good at. And so you approach this new skill like, okay, there's this thing on here. Well, let me like work out the process of learning how to learn it. And there's confidence that has to happen even in that because of past experiences. You might be trying to take on a new role at work, or you might be trying to take on, maybe somebody listening here is like trying to be a cyclist, or you're trying to be a swimmer. Maybe you want to do a triathlon. And you're like, I don't know how to swim, or I don't know how to ride a bike, but you've learned how to do other things in your life. So reflect on what that process was to learn that, so that you can approach, how do you learn how to cycle? How do you learn how to swim? Maybe you're trying to play pickleball and you're trying to like figure that out, and you want to be good at that. But the confidence comes from those past experiences. Like you just mentioned, you can pull from other things. It doesn't have to be the same thing. Just pull from what kind of has that essence to it.
Yeah. Speaking of pickleball, do you remember when Ken just crushed our spirit?
I will literally never forget Ken kicking my butt in pickleball. I won't. Man. That's a core memory.
Yeah. Yeah. We got wiped off of the court in embarrassing fashion.
This guy's almost twice our age.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we were just getting sniped. But What did we learn? How can we respond to that? When we play him again at another member event, how can we bring that past experience and make it work for us?
Knowing
instead of just avoiding getting matched up against
knowing, okay, I know how to score the points, but the issue is, how do I do the thing to score the points consistently? I know where I'm supposed to hit the ball to get the advantage against him, but how do I actually execute?
We got to start practicing now. Oh man. So the focus on controllables has come up in the past 3 conversations that we've had on this topic. But I don't think we've actually called it out for what it is. Like we've been using words like reframe, reset, refocus, but really what we're trying to do is to channel our bandwidth in terms of energy and motivation and create a mindset that focuses on the things that are within our control, right? Not the person you're lined up next to. They're going to run their race. You're going to run your race, right? So controlling your controllables is a good way to build, a positive mindset and motivation. And I think you sharing your professional experience is a good example of that. Like these are things that I can do. Let me learn how to do them. Let me do them. Then let me utilize that experience to continue the momentum, right? And then finally, learning to reframe setbacks will help you as an athlete shift your attention and your focus from just blaming yourself for a drop pass or missed split or anything that might be construed as negative. It shifts it from blaming yourself to saying, okay, how can I grow from this? Why? And we briefly talked about this. So why did I miss that split? What can I do to avoid, to make sure that doesn't happen again? And then going out and executing on that, again, will create that positive feedback loop. So it's sort of like that. Again, we've been harping on this the whole time, just that mindfulness and awareness piece will give you the opportunity to reframe setbacks. And the examples that I just used may not be the best example because in our context, we're not just talking about meet over meet or race over race or season over season, but years over years too. And we watch athletes go through different seasons of their lives and dealing with different things. And sometimes a setback can be a missed split. Sometimes a setback can be extended time off or away for some, as a personal reason or an injury or, something a lot more serious that becomes a lot harder to manage. And I think that's what brings it full circle when we talk about connecting what you're doing to a purpose that is really important to you.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to reframe the setback. Hey, I got hurt. Okay. That's an uncontrollable. What do I still have control over? A, my mental approach to this whole situation, and B, what can I do while I am hurt to make sure that when I'm healthy again, right? So all of these things, there's a trickle down effect to all of these things, but it all starts with having that that higher purpose.
Yeah. I like that. You made me think, kind of as we close here, I was thinking about Leslie when you were talking and how she's been she wants to do this high rocks, which, oh my God, we tried to sign up for Nashville today. She said that right at 10 o'clock when the early bird signups, where you had to have a special code to even get in the room.
Right.
18,000 people were in there immediately as soon as it opened up. She couldn't get a ticket. to go for the early bird. So now we have to do a Thursday one. It's getting too popular. But it made me think about it because she's been struggling. Like, I'm trying to like get my body back to like so I can do my sports and everything. And she had like a kickball game the other day, which she did fine. Her friend said like she looked like her normal self, but she's like, I didn't feel that great. But she's like so set on being able to again live out this example for not really just for our son, but some of it's a response to like some family things that happened to her with parents' health and how that affected her, and just being able to like live this lifestyle so that people can see it, because so many people like just follow her for that. And this notion that she knows what she's done before, so she knows how to get there, and she can frame this like challenge of like, well, I had a kid, so and I'm glad I had the kid, but now I have to re-navigate who I am around that, so I can get what I want done, and kind of just focusing on like, hey, look, here's my constraints right now from what time I can train, with where the baby's development is and where her body actually is, to like just, all right, well, this is what I can control, so let me just focus on this. Let me not focus on all the other things. Sometimes, there's one end of the spectrum of all these people that are like, you're not going to bounce back. And so, there's this weird part of like, I need to prove these people wrong. I'm like, don't worry about them. But also, like, if you really need somebody to compare yourself to, there's that woman, she just had a kid 6 months ago and she's running in like the US Olympic trials. Go compare yourself to her.
Yeah.
But like, don't. But if you need somebody to, like, do that and like just kind of
go
like,
that direction instead of the other direction, and like all the online trolls.
Yeah, and like reframe your setback. You're comparing yourself. If you want to compare yourself and you need that bad, compare yourself to this person up there, because that means that level of performance in your world is achievable for you, and not being worried about everybody who says you shouldn't be able to do certain things on whatever timeline.
Yeah. I mean, you hear this all the time too, right? It's like, as athletes age, it's kind of odd for me, but reconciling the fact that like they're not as fast as they used to be is really hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like I get that to a degree, but like, are you the best version of yourself that you could be now? Yeah. So like, who cares if you aren't as fast as you were 20 years ago? Right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
You've hung on for 20 years and you're still, kicking butt.
Unless you actually were fast 20 years ago, you still might be able to eclipse that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What did we say last time? Like you can still optimize. You can optimize your genetic potential.
Yeah.
But the genetic potential is the limiting factor.
You've got me, through this conversation. I'm like, I'm foolish enough to think that if I like locked in hard enough with enough discipline and enough life structure, that I could actually imagine, could my genetic ceiling allow me to be this pro triathlete? I don't think I could. I actually don't believe I could be like a professional runner by itself. But maybe like at a multi-sport, maybe even like, or like if I wanted to go back to playing ultimate frisbee, like I could do that because I've done just enough of it, and Leslie has done just enough of it that like it sounds achievable enough to go and do. And there are people who are probably way more talented than me, way more skilled than me, with way deeper backgrounds, who don't think they could do that because they don't have enough proof in their life to themselves. I might think they have enough proof. You might think they have enough proof, but they don't think they have enough proof.
And that's
to do
all
that.
the difference,
but
right?
I'm foolish enough to think that I can, because I have proof that tells me that I could.
Yeah.
And, it just being a matter of, can you?
It would be interesting, now that you say that, it would be interesting to go back through the past 4 episodes with the mental framework that you're going to make a go at a professional team.
God, please stop.
And how can we know the physicality part, right? Like we know, all of that, but like being, this is going to sound terrible. I don't mean it this way, but like having the advanced athletic maturity that you have now, how can you make these tools work if you were to just say like that's
all right.
what
It
I'm
feels
gonna
like
do.
this podcast now has to become some long-term experiment of like over the next few years, how good can Donald be at what he's choosing to do to see if he can become a pro or semi-pro athlete, because he keeps talking about now.
You've got your summer and fall lined up for this year, but you know what? There's always 2027, right?
Oh yeah, I mean this year's been getting back to it. So next year we'll see what happens. Hey, thanks you all for listening to this series on sports psychology with us over these last few episodes. I hope that you've gotten a lot to think about for yourself and being able to really zoom out and observe yourself, observe your thoughts, observe how you're moving in the world and in your life, and being able to equip yourself with some tools. If you need more tools, please check out our Strength Training for Runners webinar, where we cover strength training, plyometric work, how to program these things, how to do the exercises so that you can be all you can be and have that durability and longevity. And make sure to be on the lookout for our fall race training series for anybody looking to do races this fall that you want Coach Tim to be your guy to coach you through. Thank you all. Any other words or thoughts, Coach?
Yeah, I'd hope you guys like this little mini series, this little spinoff we did. Would love any feedback from people. And if you have, comments, questions, don't hesitate to share them. And I'd love to, like we said at one point, we can be your Sherpa,
Your Sherpa
to some degree here. So yeah, let us know what you thought about it.
Awesome. Well, until then, we'll catch you next time.
See ya.